All right, welcome everybody. I'm going to call the meeting to order, that being the special council meeting of Warwick Township Council on June 24th. And as always, a start time at 3:30. I remind council of disclosure of pecuniary interest or conflict of interest. Does anybody have one at this time? Seeing none. Thank you very much. Also welcome everybody who's joining us through the Warwick Township YouTube page. And now I'm going to do the acknowledgement of ancestral lands. We acknowledge that the Township of Warwick is located on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, as well as the many Indigenous nations in Ontario whose footsteps have marked them for centuries. We also wish to acknowledge that we are situated on Treaty 29 and Treaty 25 territories signed by Chippewa chiefs, and offer our respect and gratitude for these lands. Council, I'm going to take us to number 5 on the agenda. I'm going to go to councillor commitment days today. If anybody have anything new? Yeah, Councillor Morris.
Yeah, I need to adjust mine from November 1st to the 11th to change it to October 31st to November 13th.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor. Anybody else at this time? And as always, you can always bring this to the attention of the clerk's department and make any changes you wish to. I'm also going to go to 5B, and that's councillor's items. I'm going to start with Councillor Manning this time. Councillor Manning.
I have nothing today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Westgate.
I have nothing today either.
Councillor Morris.
I have one thing. I was approached by a couple of residents about concern about our public school, our EL, used to be SS, ULES, our public school, that this new super school in Forest may greatly affect our enrollment. Now this has come from their kids, but I think we should contact the school board and find out exactly whether this will affect us or not. I don't want to go through the same thing we went through before when we lost 2 public schools and a high school.
Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor. I think that's something that we should probably inquire about, maybe through the Board of Education offices, just to find out what their plans are. So thank you very much for bringing that to our attention, and what we can maybe do through staff, make the phone call to see exactly what is going on. And then maybe Councillor Morris, perhaps you and I could follow up after that with the school board, if that works for you. Thank you very much. Anything else today, Councillor?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. I just have a couple things today. First off, I'd like to once again offer congratulations to the Watford Fire Department on their 150th year anniversary. We had it last Saturday. It was a great event, and again, we wish to congratulate them on 150 years of excellent service to our community. It was a great night, and we appreciated the fact that the department chief and so on invited us, as well as all the former firefighters and their spouses, significant others as well. So it was a great night, and again, wish to congratulate them again. The second piece is I'd like to congratulate one of our own, Joe Manning and Nancy Manning, are the Optimist Club's Citizens of the Year this year. And a lot of it has to do with many things Joe's done with the Optimist Club and other things, but special mention of the 150th anniversary of Watford last year and all the work they put in coordinating it and Joe chairing it. So again, Councillor, congratulations. Well done. Well done. Okay, I don't think there's anything on number 6 as far as, pardon me, there is no staff items verbal today. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Let's go to delegations and timed events if we could. The first delegation we have today is we have Wayne Jenkin, WM Landfill Engineering Manager, and John McDonald, Waste Management Senior District Manager. And they're here today to talk about the Twin Creeks Environmental Center, landfill leachate, and proposed amendment. Gentlemen, please. Is John joining you, Wayne?
Looks like he's hanging out in the background.
Okay, very good. So it's pretty simple as we do it here. We'll obviously we've welcomed you. We'll turn the floor over to you and let you make your presentation. If we have questions, we'll ask them at the end. So the floor is yours, sir.
I appreciate that, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for having us here today. With me today, obviously, is John McDonald. I'd like to call special attention to him for not coming up to the table with me. And also Louisa Adset, just beside him, our public relations manager. I am Wayne Jenkin, engineering manager at the Twin Creeks Landfill for Waste Management, or WM, just down the road. And we were asked to attend today to delegate and present kind of two parts that both deal with leachate management at the site. The first of those two parts is a little bit of background, a little bit of history about leachate management. And the second is a proposed permit amendment application that is in front of council and your TRT at this point. And I think I get followed by Mr. Peter Pickfield, who will talk more about that once I'm through. Does that sound okay? Excellent. We are up on screen with presentation content, as I talked about, kind of two parts. We'll also touch super briefly on leachate management future. But this brings us to a background tab. Anyway, away we go. I'm going to start all the way back. The year 2000. Hard to believe that math when you do the subtraction. But this was back when Waste Management undertook an environmental assessment for the current landfill expansion at what is now the Twin Creeks Environmental Center. Back at that time, we created leachate generation estimates that were part of the development and operations plan for the site. The landfill was to be and has been developed in phases, 9 phases, and I've just got a few numbers here kind of describing. At phase 1, we were expecting about 130 cubic meters a day. At its peak in phase 8, 320 cubic meters a day. And after closure, once the landfill is closed and capped, that volume would reduce down to approximately 200 cubic meters a day. Again, I'm saying all these numbers, but they're just they're the history of the site, et cetera. We now have actuals and empiricals that I'll come to in a couple more slides. In addition to the landfill expansion, there's also a existing or a closed landfill there at the site, and it generates around 70. So in total, we had anticipated disposal capacity necessary for the 320 peak plus the 70, round that up a little bit, 390 equals 400. Okay, 400 is kind of a key number as I work through the rest of this. WM obtained approval for an on-site leachate treatment facility capable of treating 400 cubic meters per day. That was done to satisfy the EA and satisfy our ECA or our permits. And subsequently, WM received permit amendments to delay the construction of that on-site leachate treatment facility until a sufficient quantity and quality of leachate was available to actually treat. Okay. Bit of history here. We've been through 4 amendments to date. We originally proposed a 3-year amendment, then a 5, then a 10. And our current proposal is that the plant would be constructed 3 years prior to landfill closure. That is the current, again, the 3 years prior to closure. And just to be specific and clear, there is no leachate treatment facility on site. Nothing has been constructed to date. Since commencing operations, WM has implemented a range of design and operational practices to minimize leachate generation. Leachate generation has been less than projected or less than estimated now 20 plus years ago. And the current leachate treatment facility design is oversized. Okay, so quick math here, back to that 400 design. We're less than that. I'm still going to cover what our current numbers are. Okay. Back in 2017, while working through the fill rate amendment, which I think most of us are familiar with, we completed or committed to complete a leachate management plan by 2020 and to update that plan every 3 years. And also to complete a leachate treatment facility study 7 years prior to closure. And really, this isn't on here, but the reason we're here today is that we're at that 7 years prior to closure based on current landfill capacity. Okay. The facility study is to be used to assess and determine the sizing required for the plant and update it to the appropriate facility design. So we did complete the leachate management plan back in 2020. We updated it in 2023. So again, those every 3 years. And the LMP shows that the site generates currently about 140 cubic meters per day. Okay. So again, I'm trying to make that relationship between plant design of 400, current number around 140. Okay. Based on the empirical data for the site, the estimate that was completed back 20+ years ago was overly conservative, was an overestimate. We're at 140 today versus 400. Okay. We do look ahead within that leachate management plan as well. And we expect that over the next 5 years that leachate may peak between 150 and 190 cubic meters a day. Okay. So again, that 150-ish, 190 plus the 70 from the closed landfill, not forgetting that piece, we're in the 200 to 220 range. Okay. Still far less than the 400. Okay. That's the math that I'm looking to sell here. We do manage leachate on an ongoing basis. Our current method of leachate management is listed here, and it's handled in 2 parts. First, we operate an on-site phytoremediation system. That is the Poplar system situated on the old landfill. Again, I think everyone's seen it. And I think if I can kind of paraphrase from your TRT, it's a well-run facility. Very few negative comments or any sort of technical comments about that facility and how it operates. Okay. That system manages about 10,000 to 15,000 cubic meters a year. So still only a portion of our 40 to 50,000 total, but a good percentage, 20-30%. The balance of the leachate is removed from the site and sent off-site to municipal wastewater treatment plants for disposal. Currently, we ship leachate to the city of Chatham to their wastewater treatment plant. And since all of this has happened, we have started a landfill optimization project. Okay, we've also been here delegated for that optimization, and of course, that does tie into our overall leachate management plan as well. So in 2020, we initiated the terms of reference for that leachate optimization. The Minister of the Environment approved that terms of reference back in December of 2022, and that environmental assessment is now underway. We're actively working on that. We had a public information session for existing conditions back the end of last year, and we're headed towards a effects assessment public information session later this fall. That landfill optimization project is seeking approximately 14 million cubic meters of additional airspace that could add up to 12 years of additional site life. Okay. As part of the EA, WM will be considering various landfill alternative designs, which in EA language is called alternative methods. And that will include how leachate is managed and how leachate generation and leachate disposal may be affected. Okay. That kind of talks about the background, where we're coming from, the comparison of our 400 permitted plant to our 200 actual leachate generation. And that brings us to the proposed ECA amendment that council has received, has issued to the TRT, et cetera. And what I'm looking to do here on the next couple slides is kind of describe that amendment and describe the rationale behind it. Okay. So back early May, I think it was May 8th, if my memory serves, I just added it in here. We shared that draft ECA amendment with the township. Per our permit requirements, WM needs to consult with stakeholders, of which the township is one of those stakeholders. And that permit includes a condition, and I love saying this permit condition number because it's 8.61D, and it sounds like some sort of tax code, but anyway, nobody's laughing, fine. Nobody laughs. Anyway, that permit condition requires the leachate treatment facility study to be completed at least 7 years prior to closure. Okay, and again, that's where we are now. Based on the remaining capacity, the approved fill rates, it is projected that the site has approximately 7 years of capacity remaining as of mid-2024. That's where we are now. That means that the facility study or a permit amendment needs to be completed. Okay. We are proposing to amend this permit condition due to the proposed changes to the operational life and the future plans for Twin Creeks that come out of the proposed EA. Okay. The rationale here is on the next slide. The long-term plans for Twin Creeks will be considered in the expansion EA. That is part of the terms of reference. The EA will identify a preferred approach for the management of leachate, which includes an assessment of the currently approved leachate treatment facility and whether changes are required. Should WM decide to amend the design, the appropriate supporting documentation will all be prepared, all be submitted. It will go through the same stakeholder review as everything else. And I think really what we're trying to do here is to manage leachate correctly and to build and operate the right treatment facility at the right time. Okay, that's really the punchline. We had a WPLC meeting just a week ago. This permit amendment was discussed there, as they're also a stakeholder to the landfill. There was a couple comments of, this has come up before. This isn't the first time. There's been a delay. And we agree, absolutely. We again want to do this at the right time, use the right technology. And at the time, I didn't have our actual precise number, but since then I pulled it up. Twin Creeks has completed 37 permit amendments to date from our original permits issued back in 2008. All of those have been utilized to make the facility current, to use the best available technology, and to do things at the right time. This is an extension of that same approach, and could be number 38. And really that brings us to kind of second last slide, which is titled Future. So again, I've already mentioned, the site currently sends leachate to Chatham. We are working on an approval for another facility in the US in Inkster, Michigan. We have also been talking with the town of Petrolia and the ministry about getting Petrolia approved as a leachate receiving site for Twin Creeks leachate. In addition to those sites, those municipal sites that we're working on, WM also maintains contingency disposal agreements with private wastewater treatment plants. Should we ever be shut down, should we ever be turned off, whatever that looks like. And lastly, it's been a few years, but I know it's part of, again, Mr. Pickfield's presentation here. We had looked at a co-treatment opportunity with this municipality, our host municipality, and should an opportunity for leachate treatment be available, we're interested in pursuing. So when we couple all those things together with doing things at the right time, with the right technology, and keeping our available options open, that's kind of the history of leachate and why we're doing this proposed amendment today. And that brings us to questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jankin, for your presentation. Did anybody have any questions today to our presenter? Yes, Councilor Westgate.
The leachate from a petroleum landfill, where does it go?
It does go to the town of Petroleum Municipal Wastewater Plant. Yeah. We are connected through a pump station and pipeline connected into their sewer system.
Yeah, so they've already got permits to take it there,
They do, yep.
but they can't take it from here. You need another permit to take it from here.
Good question. Yep. They do not need any permit amendments on their side. However, nor do we, but we have a permit that says we need district office approval for any location that receives leachate. So it's not an amendment, it's not an approval, but it is an acknowledgement if we go to Petrolia.
Anybody else have any questions, comments? Yes, Councilor Morris.
One question, I guess, for the people listening is, you mentioned 220, I think, was your last one. Can you put it in perspective about how many truckloads that's going to be?
Yeah, for sure.
Because people, the metric, they want to know how many trucks are going to be up out of there.
Thank you for that. It's such an engineering brain that I have that I don't often do that conversion. A transport tanker that you see leaving the site holds about 40 cubic meters. So we're roughly sending out 6 truckloads a day of leachate today. That could increase with our peak number, like from the 140 today up to 220. So maybe 8 trucks a day, something like that. Small number in comparison to garbage trucks, but yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you.
All right, Councillor Kallenberg, I don't want to forget you. Did you have any questions, sir?
No, I did not at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, seeing there's no other questions, council, I would entertain a motion to receive and file the written portion of Mr. Jenkins' presentation. Thank you, Councillor Morris. Thank you, Councillor Manning is seconding that. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, Council 7B on our delegation is Peter Pickfield, our lawyer, and Peter's here to give us an update on the review of the TRT comments on the proposal ECA amendment on leachate. Mr. Pickfield, if you kindly join us up front here, that would be great. Good to see you again, sir. Give Mr. Pickfield a chance to get settled in. Peter, you've been here long enough. You understand the drill. I'll turn the floor over to you, sir, and let you make your presentation when ready. Thank you.
So good afternoon, council, and Mr. Mayor, good to see you too. I think that Wayne provided a pretty good summary of a long history with leachate. I'm going to add a little bit to that in my presentation, but I'm not going to repeat. I'm going to try and be as concise as I can here. So first of all, just on the nature of what we have before us in terms of the application that's going to the ministry under condition 8.6. That condition establishes that an on-site leachate treatment system has to be installed within 7 years of the closure of the site, which is now on the existing site. It's going to close in roughly 7 years. It also requires that within 3 years, or pardon me, I'm sorry, within, I've got to repeat, I've got to correct that. It's within 3 years of closure that it has to be, that the leachate treatment system has to be fully installed and operational. Within 7 years, the study has to be commenced. And the purpose of the study is to actually design the leachate treatment plant to carry, and then after that, the necessary approvals have to be put in place. So there's a 7-year period that was established in the condition to allow enough time before the, so that you can have a fully operational leachate treatment facility within 3 years of closure. So that's what 8.6 does. And it does a number of other things also. But that's the main issue that I think is being discussed today, is a proposal that we remove not the requirement to build it within 3 years of closure, but the requirement to start the study process now, which is within 7 years of closure, which is, as I said, now 7 years of closure starts right around now. So that's what the application is. As Wayne said, the application, as well as a memorandum which set out the rationale for the application from WM, was provided on April the 8th. And since that time, we have conducted a review, and the review was conducted both by our firm and by the landfill engineering firm that is part of the TRC that regularly reviews the landfill issues. And so you're familiar with the firm, because the firm has been advising on the as part of the TRT for quite some time. So they've conducted a review, and this report that I prepared here is basically a combination of the work of our firm working with BM Ross and their firm to produce our response to it. So that's by way of background. The background that Wayne provides was pretty thorough. There's a few other pieces I want to just add into it, just to sort of kind of ensure that we have a bit more context on it. When the original application was approved under the Environmental Assessment Act, part of the environmental assessment was a requirement to do a full on-site leachate treatment facility right at the start, at commencement. But in 2009, just before the start of the landfilling, there was a proposal to begin discussions on a co-treatment option with the municipality. And at that time, one of the reasons why it was decided that we wouldn't move ahead with an on-site leachate treatment facility and that we'd have some delay in that requirement was that those early days of those discussions were starting. The other reason is because there wasn't an immediate need for it. There was a recognition that there was time in order to deal with the leachate treatment system. We didn't need to build an on-site leachate treatment system right away. So there has been a series of extensions to that time frame. The first extension was 2012. A second extension was to 2014, of 2 years. And then, and during that time period, the reasons for the extension were that the municipality was trying to work with WM, and there was a process going on to see if a municipal co-treatment option would work instead of just the full on-site treatment facility. And then in 2013, it became apparent, WM and the municipality through a process mutually agreed that the co-treatment option was going to be pursued at that time. And at that time, WM came forward with a proposal for a more open-ended extension of when they needed to construct the leachate treatment facility. Their initial proposal was that it be delayed until 2035, which was essentially closure around the then predicted closure of the landfill. But what happened at that time was there was agreement instead that there would be an extension to 2019, which was at that point, roughly 2 or 3 years, in order. And then at the same time, there was a commitment to do this leachate treatment plan for the landfill, so that so that all happened around 2016 or so. But then the next step in the process, as Wayne pointed out, was in 2017. There was the fill rate expansion. And at that time, there was during the fill rate, in the context of that whole discussion around the fill rate expansion, WM raised the idea that we need to deal with when are we going to actually have a leachate treatment facility built. They wanted to delay it further into the future. So there was a discussion of the parameters around, could we agree to that? And their municipality had a good discussion with WM at that time, and they agreed to what you see now before you, which is the current 8.6, which is this idea that they would start a study process 7 years before closure, and they'd build it by 3 years before closure. So there'd be 4 years to design it, to get all the required approvals, etc. The other element of this was that, yes, they do have an existing approval for a leachate treatment facility with the ministry. They filed that in 2009. It's always been a bit of a placeholder because there was always a recognition, and particularly became apparent with the continuing extensions, that there would have to be another application brought for an updated approval or an amendment for an updated approval and an updated facility. Because, and as Wayne's pointed out, we're learning a lot about this landfill, how quickly it generates leachate, what's required, and there's technology changes that are going on all the time also. So that at some point in the future, they're going to have to redesign it. That was anticipated in 2017 when the commitment was made by WM to establish this study process 7 years before closure. So that's a sort of filling in on sort of the background to it. And when we conducted our review, the team, first of all, there were a number of other specific changes being proposed to the wording of section 8.6 by WM that in their documentation. And those changes are generally supported, and I'll go through those in a minute. But the real key is that the question that the TRT has is that what happens if the expansion is not approved? Because the rationale that you've been provided with in the material assumes that there's potentially a closure in 2043 because of a 12-year extension because of the approval of the expansion that's currently going through the EA process now. And there's a couple of concerns with just assuming that that's going to be approved right now. One of them is a legal concern I have, because the Environmental Assessment Act doesn't allow for consideration of approval of instruments. This is an approval of an instrument until the undertaking is approved. The undertaking is going through a study process right now. It's not approved for the expansion. But the other possibility is that if it's not approved, and this is the sort of the second concern, if it's not approved, and where will we be in terms of the closure of the landfill at that point? And that's the contingency that the TRT is concerned about, is that if the expansion is not approved, then the landfill closes. And we don't meet the requirement of 3 years prior to approval having construction, because that 7-year timeframe was really thought through pretty carefully to recognize the time it would take from designing it, obtaining the necessary approvals and putting that landfill in place. 4 years is not a lot of time for that. So what our report is recommending is that this go back to WM, and WM think that issue through a little bit and provide an and not just present something which assumes that the expansion is going to be successful, but provides a rationale for how we can achieve it if it isn't successful and the landfill does close. And that piece we think is important for a couple of reasons. It's important for the municipality not to assume that the expansion is going to be approved in their thinking in terms of their representation on this issue. And it's important for WM in the TRT's view to consider the possibility that if it's not successful, they still need to meet the requirement, even under what they're proposing now, to build this leachate treatment facility within 3 years of closure. So that issue was not directly assessed or discussed in the material. So we're recommending that you send this report on to accept the report, hopefully as for sending it on to WM, and allow WM to provide some submissions around that issue. And that's really where we are on it today. There are a couple of other specific changes that WM is proposing, and we are proposing some minor tweaks to those changes, and that's already described in the report. I don't know if I need to go through those today. I think they're clear enough in the report, and they'll be clear enough when WM reviews them. But all we're requesting today, respectfully, is that that council receive the report and agree to refer it back to WM for comment, and then come back to council at a later stage once we receive their comments on the report.
All right, well, thank you very much, Mr. Pickfield. Did anybody have any questions or comments for Mr. Pickfield? There is a proposed resolution that Mr. Pickfield has spoke about today. How does council wish to deal with that resolution that's been proposed today? Anyone? Councilor Westgate.
I'll move that resolution.
Councilor Seconder.
I will
Yes.
second that resolution.
Thank you, Councilor Morris. Any further discussion at all? Any? Seeing none. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much, Mr. Pickfield. Okay, council, we're going to go to number 8. We have staff reports. We have 8A. And this is the CEO's biannual status report. There's also a recommendation to receive and file. Did anybody have any questions about that? If there's not, I would entertain a motion to receive and file. Councillor Manning is making that motion, seconded by Councillor Morris. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. And then we go to 8B, if we could. And this is a recommendation to council on the CIP grant. How does council's recommendation on it as well for consideration? How does council wish to deal with this, or is there any questions beforehand? Councilor Morris?
I would like, when this is presented, to put the actual company's name on it. It's the one across the street, is it not?
Hi, Council Morris. Yes, it's actually the building owner that submitted this application for the,
Okay.
for the,
Okay.
Yeah.
Move it.
Thank you, Councillor. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Manning, thank you. Further discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Amanda. So we're now going to need a motion to go in camera pursuant to section 239, Councillor Morris and Councillor Westgate, to deal with the following: a matter regarding personnel matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, for training and education sessions. Thank you very much. So all in favor? It's carried. Thank you. So now